Let me talk to you about something most people your age have been told to be quiet about. Something that for far too long has lived in the shadows. Something natural, personal, powerful. I'm talking about masturbation. Yes, that simple act. The one so many grew up feeling ashamed about. The one that still makes some people shift uncomfortably in their chairs. But what if I told you that after the age of 60, this very act, this humble, private experience, might be one of the most powerful tools you have to protect your health, maintain your vitality, and hold on to your sense of self? Now, I'm not saying this lightly. I'm a doctor. I've spent decades talking to patients who are navigating the challenges of aging. I've seen what happens when we pretend the body's done with desire. I've seen what happens when people believe that pleasure is a young person's game. But more importantly, I've seen what happens when people choose to stay connected with their bodies, when they embrace the truth that it's never too late to feel alive. Let's start with the most immediate benefit of masturbation after 60. Circulation. As we age, our blood vessels stiffen, our circulation weakens. This affects everything from our brain to our fingertips, but sexual arousal, including through masturbation, triggers a cascade of physiological responses. Your heart rate increases. Blood flow is directed to the skin, the genitals, the muscles. That flood of oxygenated blood helps nourish tissue. It keeps everything flexible, from your pelvic floor muscles to your brain's own reward centers. A study published in the American Journal of Cardiology found that older men who were sexually active at least once per week had a significantly reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. Not because of the sex itself alone, but because of what the body has to do to make sex possible. And masturbation, with or without a partner, activates those same internal systems. But the benefits don't stop there. One of the silent killers of later life is loneliness, the kind that sits heavy on your chest, the kind that erodes sleep, that chips away at the immune system, that drags down your mental health. When you lose a spouse, when friends pass away, when your children are busy with lives of their own, it's easy to fall into that quiet isolation. Touch, real, physical touch, becomes rare. And when you go too long without it, your body forgets how to respond to it. That's not just poetic language. That's neurobiology. Masturbation reconnects you to yourself. It reminds your nervous system what it means to be held, to be cared for, even by your own hands. That act releases oxytocin, the very same hormone released when a baby breastfeeds or when you hug someone you love. Oxytocin helps reduce cortisol levels, which are linked to stress and inflammation. A study from Rutgers University showed that during sexual arousal and orgasm, people experience increased dopamine and oxytocin, both of which are critical for emotional stability and resilience. These aren't just good feelings. These are biochemical shields against depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. And then there's sleep. As the years go by, sleep becomes elusive. You wake in the middle of the night, you toss and turn, you feel unrested in the morning, but masturbation can change that. The hormonal changes that occur post-orgasm, oxytocin and prolactin, are nature's sedatives. They calm the nervous system. They allow your body to enter the restorative cycles of deep sleep. Sleep is when your brain clears out plaques and waste. Sleep is when your muscles repair, when your immune system regenerates. People over 60 who struggle with sleep are at a higher risk for dementia, heart disease, and weakened immunity. Something as simple as masturbation can reset that balance. And what about your pelvic floor? This is something not many people talk about unless they are facing incontinence or sexual dysfunction. But the truth is, the muscles that support your bladder, your bowels, your reproductive organs, they all respond to stimulation. Orgasms, especially the kind that come from focused, intentional masturbation, engage those muscles. They contract, they release, they strengthen. Over time, that can mean better bladder control. It can mean fewer embarrassing accidents. It can mean less reliance on medication or adult diapers. In women, it can mean more moisture, less discomfort, and better vaginal health. In men, it can help preserve erectile function and reduce the risk of prostate issues. A study conducted by researchers in Finland found that men who ejaculated regularly in their 60s and 70s had lower rates of prostate cancer. That's not folklore. That's science. There is something deeply human about wanting to feel pleasure, and yet for too long, our culture has told people that once you pass a certain age, that part of you should go quiet. That desire is unseemly, that your body is no longer worthy of that kind of attention. I say no. I say that's a lie that has harmed too many people. Masturbation is not just about sex. It is about reclaiming your agency, about honoring the fact that your body still belongs to you, that it still holds joy, that it still holds meaning. I once had a patient, a woman in her late 70s, who came to me after years of numbness. She had been widowed for over a decade. She thought her body had shut down, as she put it. We talked. We explored what she was feeling. I encouraged her to try something simple, a warm bath, gentle touch, not with a goal of orgasm, but with a goal of connection. Within months, she returned to my office with tears in her eyes. I thought that part of me was dead, she said, but it's still there. I'm still here. That moment was as healing as any medicine I could prescribe. In a study conducted by the National Social Life, Health, and Aging Project, it was found that over 70% of adults between the ages of 60 and 80 reported still having sexual feelings, yet only about 30% acted on them. Why the gap? Shame, misinformation, the belief that aging means turning off the lights inside you. But those who did stay sexually engaged, even through masturbation, reported better physical health, stronger emotional well-being, and deeper satisfaction with life. Masturbation can also help maintain cognitive function. The brain is not a separate island. It is deeply interconnected with your hormonal system, your vascular system, your emotional state. When you engage in activities that stimulate pleasure, you activate parts of the brain involved in memory, focus, and learning. The hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex. These are the regions that deteriorate in Alzheimer's disease. Keeping them engaged through positive experiences helps keep them healthy. A 2021 study published in Archives of Sexual Behavior found a correlation between frequent sexual activity in older adults and improved performance on cognitive tasks. Not only memory, but problem solving, language, and even abstract thinking. This is not about turning sexuality into a prescription. This is not about saying that everyone must masturbate to be healthy. But it is about giving you permission. Permission to listen to your body, to not abandon it, to not let it go numb and silent because of a calendar date. Masturbation can be a form of self-care, of presence, of healing. In the privacy of your own space, you have access to something that requires no prescription, no insurance approval, no fancy device, just your own willingness to connect. I have spoken to many people in their 60s, 70s, even 90s, who felt unsure, who felt they needed to ask, is it still okay? And to each of them I have said, yes, it is more than okay, it is sacred. There is no expiration date on the human spirit. There is no age limit to worthiness. Masturbation may seem small, but it touches something large, your dignity, your health, your wholeness. Now let me be clear, if you have certain medical conditions or experience discomfort, speak to a healthcare professional. There are ways to adapt. There are lubricants for dryness, cushions for support, positions that reduce strain. The point is not to suffer through it. The point is to listen to your body, to honor it. You may be wondering, why didn't anyone tell me this before? The truth is, our society doesn't like to talk about aging, and it certainly doesn't like to talk about aging and sexuality in the same breath. But the silence ends here, because you deserve to know. You deserve to feel whole. And yes, masturbation, simple, quiet, solitary, is a way to do that. There is no shame in seeking pleasure, no shame in touching your own body, no shame in staying connected to that life force inside you. In fact, the shame comes not from the act, but from the belief that it should be hidden. I want to free you from that. I want you to know that every time you choose to care for yourself in this way, you are choosing life, not survival, life. So let me end with this. Masturbation after 60 is not indulgent. It is not desperate. It is not dirty. It is human. It is healthy. It is healing. It helps your blood flow. It supports your brain. It nurtures your sleep. It guards your emotional well-being. and it reminds you that you are still here, still whole, still worthy. Take your time. Be gentle with yourself, but do not abandon the fire inside you, because that fire is your power, and it deserves to burn for as long as you live. Can this really replace intimacy? Let's talk honestly. When I speak to older patients about masturbation and self-pleasure, there's always one question that follows quietly. It doesn't always get spoken out loud, but I see it in the eyes. I hear it in the hesitation. Can this really replace intimacy? Can touching myself ever come close to the connection I once had with someone else? That longing for closeness, for touch, for feeling seen and loved, can it really be answered by something I do alone? And the truth is, this is not a simple question. It touches something very human, very deep. You see, intimacy is more than physical. It is the feeling of being held in someone's presence, the warmth of another person's breath, the way your heartbeat slows when you are lying beside someone you trust. Those memories stay with you. And when that part of life is gone, when a partner passes away, or when age brings separation, illness, or distance, that absence leaves a real mark. So no, masturbation does not replace all of that. It cannot give you the sound of someone whispering your name in the quiet of night. It cannot hold your hand as you fall asleep. But here's what it can do. It can remind you that your body is still here. It can remind you that you are not invisible. It can remind you that you are still capable of feeling joy. And in that way, it can fill a space inside that has gone quiet for too long. We have to stop pretending that intimacy always requires another person. That belief has caused more suffering than we know. Because when we lose our partners or when we live alone, we start to believe we must shut that part of ourselves down. But you are still whole. You are still human. And the ability to touch yourself, to offer yourself comfort, to experience pleasure, to connect with your body, is a form of intimacy that matters just as much. In fact, studies have shown that self-touch and self-pleasure can activate the same areas of the brain that are triggered during partnered sex. Functional MRI scans have revealed that during orgasm, whether alone or with a partner, the brain lights up in similar ways. The limbic system, which controls emotion, the hypothalamus, which releases oxytocin, the prefrontal cortex, where identity and reflection live. That tells us something very important. The body does not distinguish between solo and partnered pleasure in the way we think it does. The emotional value you assign to the moment, that is what matters most. In a study conducted by the Kinsey Institute, older adults who maintained solo sexual activity reported higher life satisfaction, fewer depressive symptoms, and stronger feelings of connection with themselves. This wasn't about replacing love or forgetting a lost partner. It was about reclaiming the present moment, about choosing to nurture the body instead of abandoning it, about saying, I still matter. There's something powerful in choosing yourself, in saying, I will not wait for someone else to validate me. I will touch my body with kindness. I will remind myself that I still deserve to feel good. That act becomes a form of healing, and for many seniors, it becomes a bridge, a way to feel grounded again, especially after loss, especially after grief. You see, intimacy does not always have to be romantic. Intimacy is about connection, presence, tenderness. And when you bring that same care to yourself, when you take your time, when you light a candle, when you breathe and listen to your body, you're creating a space of deep intimacy, even if it's just you in the room. That experience can fill a part of your heart that no longer gets filled by traditional relationships. And here's something else that might surprise you. Many people who begin reconnecting with their bodies through self-pleasure later find that their ability to connect emotionally with others begins to open again too. Whether it is new friendships or even new relationships, the act of staying in touch with your own needs keeps your heart soft. It keeps you from going numb. It keeps you available. Because when you feel cut off from yourself, it becomes very hard to connect with anyone else. Aging often comes with messages that tell you to step aside, to grow quiet, to give up on desire. But that's not wisdom. That's loss pretending to be acceptance. I'm here to tell you that you can be in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond and still experience deep intimacy with yourself or with someone else. And masturbation is not a replacement. It is a doorway, a gentle, private act that keeps that door from closing all the way. I once had a patient, a man in his late 80s, who told me something I will never forget. He said, "I thought that when my wife died, all the love I had inside would die with her. But it didn't. It stayed. It just had nowhere to go. I didn't think touching myself would feel like anything more than a shadow. But after a while, it started to feel like a prayer, like I was honoring the life that's still in me, like I was telling myself, I still matter." That man taught me more about intimacy than any textbook ever could. So if you are wondering whether masturbation can replace intimacy, ask instead, can it create intimacy? Can it nurture you when others cannot? Can it give you the safety to feel again? Can it help you remember that you are more than just a caretaker, more than just someone waiting to be called, more than someone others have forgotten? The answer is yes, it can. Not by pretending to be something else, but by being exactly what it is, a way to return to your own heart. Give yourself that chance. Do not wait for someone else to tell you you are worth it. You already are. The love you seek does not always have to come from outside. Sometimes the deepest connection you will ever feel comes from within, and that too is real intimacy.